Doc, medyo mahina po.
Medyo mahina po. Yan po. Okay na po.
Better, Doc.
Okay, thank you po. Thank you, Doc, for that kind introduction. Good evening, everyone, colleagues, medical and allied professionals. Welcome to today's lecture by the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, Untitled Chapter, entitled, Ha? Nabibingi ka ba? I will just be speaking to you live during the first slides. The remaining portions are pre-recorded to better facilitate our lecture. At any point during the lecture, we may pause for questions and comments or clarifications. Now, to formally start our lecture, our objectives are as follows. Can you see po yung slideshow natin?
Doc, nakikita namin yung notes page.
Okay, sorry po.
Ayan, Doc.
Nasa slideshow po tayo.
Blanco po.
Okay po. Our objectives for this evening is to discuss the brief anatomy of the ear, the basics of
Doc,
hearing
walang
test.
lumalabas na objective mo.
Sorry po. Wait lang po, sorry po.
Ayan, Doc. Okay na.
Our objectives for this evening is to discuss the brief anatomy of the ear, discuss the basics of hearing test and audiogram, and discuss the things to look out for in hearing loss. So to start our video, the ear is made up of three parts: the outer, middle, and inner ear. The outer ear consists of the pinna and the external auditory meatus. The pinna helps detect where sounds are coming from, or what we call sound vocalization. The sound is collected, travels to the ear canal, and directed towards the tympanic membrane. The middle ear is an air-filled cavity consisting of the tympanic membrane, ossicles, and eustachian tube. The tympanic membrane has a rich blood supply with an area between 70 to 80 square millimeter and a vibrating surface of 55 square millimeter. Sound wave enters the ear canal, strikes the tympanic membrane, setting it in motion. The middle ear contains the ossicles, the malleus, incus, and the stapes. These are connected in a chain across the middle ear from the tympanic membrane to the entrance of the cochlea called the oval window. The tympanic membrane, in response to sound, moves the ossicles. The stapes foot plate then moves in and out of the oval window to transfer energy to the endolymph fluid within the cochlea. The inner ear has two distinct portions: the vestibular portion concerned with balance, and the cochlea, which is concerned with the hearing. The vestibular portion is made up of three semicircular canals. Each canal has a swelling at one end called the ampulla and two membranous sacs, the utricle and the saccule. The vestibular system works with the eye and joint receptors for balance. The cochlea appears as a coiled tube in the shape of a snail between 2.5 and 2 3/4 turns and is wrapped around the acoustic portion of the auditory nerve. It is split into three distinct sections known as the scala vestibuli, scala media, and scala tympani. The scala vestibuli and media is separated by the Reissner's membrane, while the basilar membrane separates the scala media from the tympani. Along the basilar membrane, we find the outer and inner hair cells. These are arranged in their rows according to the frequency of sound they detect, and covered by the tectorial membrane. When sound energy is transferred to the cochlea, the basilar membrane moves up and down, causing the outer hair cell stereocilia to shear on the tectorial membrane above. This shearing action causes the stereocilia to bend, which opens the ion gates. These charges make a neural impulse which travels along the auditory nerve to the brain, where it is then interpreted as sound. If we were to uncoil the cochlea from its normal anatomic configuration, noting the structures discussed earlier, introduce sound transmitted from the tympanic membrane, transmitted to the ossicles, then to the oval window, we now see the fluid wave and the inner workings within the cochlea. This fluid wave, depending on the frequency of sound, would trigger a certain portion of the cochlea. Now let's look at the cochlea's inner working. At this time, you may take a picture or screenshot for future reference. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, to fully understand the function of the cochlea, I would like to share with you its frequency map. In this picture, you can see where specific frequencies are interpreted in the cochlea. That is in the base, high frequency sound that is from 4000 Hz and upper heard. The middle portion were mid frequencies from 1000 to 2000 Hz. And the apex for low frequency, that is from 250 to 500 Hz. Take note that in noise-induced hearing loss, high frequencies are affected because this portion is the first to receive sound and is thus greatly affected during prolonged exposure to noise. Why is it then important to note of these frequencies? In ENT, we refer to this picture as the audiogram of the speech banana due to the shape certain vowels and consonants form in the audiogram. Let's dissect this picture portion by portion to better understand its use. You may take a picture or screenshot. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. On the y-axis, you can see the level or intensity in decibels indicated here from 0 to 120. On the other hand, on the x-axis, the frequency indicated in hertz from 125 to 8000. This may also be rounded off to kilohertz as 0.125, 0.250, 0.5, 1, 2 kilohertz, and so on. Also noted in this picture are examples of where certain sounds are heard, such as rustling of leaves at approximately 1500 Hz between 5 to 10 decibels, or a chainsaw at 100 decibels at 2000 Hz, and so on. Now let's focus on the banana. You can see here where certain consonants and vowels are heard. Say for example, your patient has a frequency hearing loss of 3000 Hz at 40 decibels. He or she may hear eat instead of sheep, or ave instead of shave. Or for example, a loss of 250 Hz at 30 decibels. Your patient may hear ibra instead of zebra. Your patient may have certain losses depending on their hearing impairment. True to today's lecture, bingi ka ba? The normal arm's length speech is at 55 to 60 decibels, depending on which reference you look at. But if your patient talks in a slightly louder voice when indoors, or in a not too noisy environment, it may be safe to assume that that individual may have hearing impairment. Now let's get more technical. Please take a picture or screenshot in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. As a code, just to remember, R is for red, is for right. So please repeat. R is for red, is for right. We will only be discussing the upper four symbols. If in case you see that masking has been done to your patient, or you see the lower two symbols, it is best that you refer your patient to a certified ENT otologist or neurotologist for future management. Please disregard the word child. This is applicable for both adults and children. If in case the printout given to you is in black and white, ONX are symbols used for air conduction testing, or that is, sound traveling through the air, usually with the use of headphones or ear inserts. Our next symbol are called angle brackets, or more commonly called less than or greater than signs. This symbol is used for bone conduction testing. That is, an oscillator seen on the picture on the right directly stimulates the inner ear. Through the cochlea, the impulse is then sent to the eighth nerve up to the brain where it is then interpreted. To help me remember, I use R and put it inside the circle, or note of where the angle bracket opens to remember laterality. Next, they are just the previous symbols with the addition of an arrow pointing down. This indicates that at a given frequency, even when presented with the loudest level or intensity, no response was heard or elicited from your patient. Let's have an example for application now that you know the symbols. Let's start with the right ear. You now know that these symbols represent ear conduction testing. So calculators ready. You now get the sum of the values for 500, 1000, and 2000 Hz, and divided by 3. Now, the exemption to this rule is that if you are working in a high noise environment and noise-induced hearing loss is common, you should add 4000 Hz and divide by 4. Now for a brief exercise. You have 10 seconds to compute for the right ear. Three, two, one. If you got the following results for the right ear, you're on the right track. So 15 plus 15 plus 10 divided by 3 equals 13. 15 plus 15 plus 10 plus 5 divided by 4 equals 11.25. Now, please do the same for the left ear. 10 seconds. Three, two, one. For the left ear, 20 plus 15 plus 15 divided by 3, 16.66. Or 20 plus 15 plus 15 plus 10 divided by 4 equals 15. So both ears are within normal hearing. Now after computing that, what do you do now with the results? The more common range used is by the WHO, which classifies that 25 decibels and below is normal, 26 to 40 decibels is mild hearing loss, 41 to 60 is moderate hearing loss, 61 to 80 is severe hearing loss, and over 81 decibel is profound hearing loss. Please take a picture or screenshot in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You may see different ranges for hearing loss online. You may use those, but please indicate that according to blank, indicate your source. The range is at blank, the test value you got, which indicates blank, state the hearing loss. So as an example, if I got a test result of 26 decibels for the right ear, I would state it as, based on the WHO classification, test result of 26 decibels for the right ear indicates mild hearing loss. For mild hearing loss, we advise the following: hearing conservation by protecting the ear, and avoiding noise exposure. If there is an ongoing infection, treat the ear. For moderate hearing loss, we advise referral to an ENT specialist or an otologist. They may be advised hearing aid use, but it is apparent to treat underlying cause of hearing loss, such as infections. Or sometimes, for prolonged infection, surgery may be advised. For severe and profound hearing loss, again, it is safer to refer to an ENT specialist or otologist. Treat the underlying cause. You may introduce that for this type of hearing loss, cochlear implant may be advised. To add to the confusion, the next question is, how about doc for conductive, sensorineural, or mixed type of hearing loss? This picture shows some of the more common causes of hearing loss. You may focus on the underlying pathology. Do a complete history and physical examination to rule out any possible causes. It is best to note of the different causes such as ototoxic medications for those undergoing TB treatment. If your patient is on chemotherapeutic medications, if there is any history of trauma or blasting injury. As a review, here are the areas you should take note of and possibly identify which portion in the ear is affected. Now, how would this reflect on the audiogram? It may be hard to correlate when given the following examples of audiograms. You may take a picture and on your free time, or if you are truly interested, we can discuss the difference of each type next time. However, for now, it is best to stick to the previous discussion. That is 1. Identify the symbol, get the sum, and divide. You may stick to air conduction threshold to check and identify. So for example, number 1. For sensorineural hearing loss, taking air conduction, 50 plus 60 plus 75 divided by 3 gives us 61 decibel or severe hearing loss. For example number 2, conductive hearing loss, again stick with the air conduction. 35 plus 40 plus 25 divided by 3 gives us a result of 33 decibel or mild hearing loss. For example number 3, mixed type hearing loss, again stick to air conduction. 80 plus 70 plus 55 divided by 3, 68 decibels or severe hearing loss. The rest of the interpretation you may refer to your partner ENT colleague for aid. History and physical exam is still the forefront when it comes to diagnosing hearing loss. Early treatment of ear infection such as in otitis externa or media, early detection of a perforated eardrum due to manipulation or in some areas, too much noise exposure are still the more common causes of hearing loss noted in our clinics. It is best to remind our patients to take care of their hearing and that according to CDC, the permissible exposure to level from 90 decibel is 8 hours, and for every 5 decibel increase, exposure time has to be divided by 2. And that along with engineering control and administrative support in reminding noise exposure and the use of proper hearing protection, with adequate amount of noise reduction, we can prevent hearing loss in our patients. This summarizes the report on hearing conservation. Are there any questions?